Welcome to the Crush It in Sales podcast. I'm your host, Melinda Van Fleet. This podcast focuses on the intersection of sales, leadership, and personal development. Now let's get ready to dig in and crush it.
Hi, everyone. I am back and excited to be back. I have been pretty sick, as well as I'm sure a lot of other people out there have been pretty sick. So I haven't had a voice. And in addition to that, been traveling and trying to work and trying to get everything done. So when you don't have a voice and your ears are clogged up and your eyes are clogged up as well, it's hard to read and hear and you can't talk. So a little bit of a learning this year as far as having a podcast. And I talk more about this in my Good Karma Success Coach podcast that I just released this past Sunday. If you feel like checking that out, I approach my whole thought process from a different viewpoint. So if you feel like checking that out, that would be awesome, and I'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to continue with how to grow your pipeline and make more money tips. My first tip that I talked about in part 1 was gather and squirrel. The second one was having a hard, honest look and studying your account list and really thinking about that. Number 3 was networking and connecting with other sales reps. And number 4 was chatting with your current account list to see if they have any suggestions for you. And those tips, hopefully, if you want to hear more about them, if you haven't listened to my previous 2 podcasts, feel free to check them out. And as always, I love to hear from people, so feel free to share your feedback or other ideas if I have missed something. In this podcast, I'm going to talk about number 5 and number 6. Number 5 is evaluating your social media and marketing. And to be honest, so many people don't do this. And so many people assume that their customers are on various platforms, which I find to be very interesting. And then often the company wants you to market yourself, let's say on Facebook, and you don't even realize that your customer isn't even on Facebook. So you're spending a lot of time spinning your wheels and perhaps even spending money on ads or boosts or whatever to market on a platform that your customer isn't even on, isn't even hanging out on. In my world, my customer really isn't on a lot of the platforms, if any of the platforms at all. It's just a different customer base. We have a different seasonality. We have different products. And often they just don't have time. So they don't bother. It's not worth their time and their energy. So hence, it wouldn't be worth my time and my energy and my money to be trying to market on a platform that they're not hanging out on. So take the time to do that. And don't just assume. And, challenge the status quo. I love that saying, comfortably challenging the status quo. If your company is trying to make you do something, be brave and have the courage to say, hey, this isn't where I should be focusing my time and energy. And if you need to take some time to present the facts or the data or show some examples or show what you can be better doing with your time, then do that, than to just be effortlessly putting out content on different platforms, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, my goodness, Pinterest even, that, really doesn't end up serving you at the end of the day. Tip number 6, know your audience. I was floored. That's my best way to put it, my most PC way to put it, maybe. I was floored at the amount of sales reps that used to call me when I was a buyer for Shop NBC, thinking that our business was the shops that are in the airports with the newsstands. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the amount of reps that did that would call me constantly. And this wasn't all that long ago, people. We had Google, we had a website, we were on TV. It was a television shopping network, and clearly a television shopping network. All you had to do was Google Shop NBC, and it popped up and you could see that we were a television shopping network. But still, even when I was at Target, I couldn't believe it. The amount of people that would try to sell me something that is nowhere near anything that Target would be buying. Nowhere near. And to even go back further in my memory bank, when I was a buyer for Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, same thing. Moderate reps would call me. If you know what moderate means, moderate is just more of an opening price point type of product category, more specific to apparel. So someone might say that they sell moderate sportswear, and that normally means that the quality and the price point are more opening price point, more of a lower quality sometimes. And obviously, if you know anything about Saks Fifth Avenue, you know that that is one of the most higher, more aspirational, more luxury brand retailers out there. Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman. Obviously, there's lots of independents now as well, but that didn't fit with the brand at all. But people would still call. They would still send samples. I would be walking around a trade show with a badge, and they would still try to pigeonhole me and try to sell me something that was nothing like a product category that would be offered at Saks Fifth Avenue. So know your audience. It sounds simple, but people just don't do it. So if you do it, and if you take the time to do it, and you send them some content or leave a voicemail or really take 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour to do a little bit of research on your future customer before presenting to them, oh my gosh, you'll be a hero, because so many people don't do it. So think of it the positive way as well. That if you are doing it, continue to do it. Put a little bit more time and effort into it, and you'll be so surprised. As a road rep, I have never called on anyone cold call wise until I've been in their store first or checked out their website or whatever type of channel that they sell product in. Never, ever, ever. And sometimes it might take me a little bit longer to get in with someone because I do that. But I've always taken the time to do that because those horrific memories of when I was a buyer and reps would call on me are still so fresh in my mind. So take the time to know your audience. It'll go so much farther, I promise you. So I hope you learned something from this podcast. Again, tip number 5 was evaluating your social media in your marketing. And tip number 6 was knowing your audience. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are the 2 platforms I hang out on the most. And my Instagram is Melinda_VanFleet. I also have another podcast called the Good Karma Success Coach Podcast, which is primarily focused on personal development. But I would love it if you check that out as well. Please share my podcast with a family member, friend, or coworker. And until next time, I hope you crush it in sales. Thank you for listening.